jealousy and dislike that they've had toward Robyn, especially Christine and Janelle. We were supposed to be a team working together.
I feel like I've been gaslit like crazy.
Meri is clearly having a laugh. In her latest interview, whether it was for E! News or Entertainment Tonight, honestly, I can't remember, she jokingly called out how she gets married 4 times a week, thanks to all the ridiculous tabloids. It's honestly hilarious. I see those nonsense articles all over Facebook too. They even do it to Janelle, claiming every other week that Kody's found a new wife. It's just clickbait at this point, annoying and totally bogus. And just to clarify, this photo isn't some cute girlfriend-boyfriend moment. It's giving pure friendship vibes. We've got so much to dive into today, so let's not waste any time. Let's jump straight into it. Hey everyone, what's up? It's Elena here, and welcome back to my channel Reality Nexus X. Meri went live on TikTok tonight, and I have to admit, it was actually pretty refreshing. I've watched her lives with Jen before, and they're always filled with giggles and playful banter. But this solo live, it had a much more laid-back, reflective vibe. She seemed genuinely in a good place, and everything she shared felt thoughtful, like it was coming from a place of real growth. I wasn't there from the start and missed a few bits, so this isn't a full breakdown, but here are some key takeaways for those who might be curious. Dating life. A lot of people wanted to know about her love life, and she confirmed she's single and dating, just not exclusively. Family drama. As expected, the comments were flooded with questions about Robyn and Kody, but Meri wasn't having any of it. She said she can't speak on other people's motivations and set boundaries on answering those kinds of questions. She also admitted that sometimes her answers might sound vague, but that's a mix of personal boundaries and contract restrictions. If something's an active storyline, like Koyo Pass, she's not allowed to talk about it, no matter how much she might want to. Tell-all book. Yes, Meri is actively writing a tell-all book, but she made it clear that it's going to take time. She wants to share her story from a place of healing, not anger or bitterness. She acknowledged that people might only want to hear her story if it's full of drama, but that's just not the path she's on. She's not interested in telling her story for shock value. She wants to do it her way, on her terms. Leon. She confirmed she's still very close to Leon, but won't go into detail out of respect for their privacy. Someone tried to dead-name Leon, and Meri shut that down calmly but firmly, offering an insightful explanation of why dead-naming is harmful. It was clear she's grown a lot in her understanding of her child's identity and the LGBT+ community in general. Relationship with Janelle. Meri confirmed she and Janelle are very close now, especially after Garrison's death. They talk regularly, and she thanked everyone for the kindness shown to them during that difficult time. Her humor. When asked about things people might not know about her, Meri said people haven't really seen her sense of humor. She thinks she's funny, but admitted that the family never really appreciated it, so she didn't show it much. Spirituality. Meri still has a spiritual relationship with God, but said she's no longer part of any organized religion. She clarified she isn't going through a faith crisis, but she's spending time re-examining what she believes and why, rather than just accepting what she was raised to believe. No regrets about the show. Meri said she doesn't regret going public with her life or being part of the show. It's all been part of her journey, and she likes who she's become because of it. Introducing Robyn to Kody. Oh, and when asked if she regretted introducing Robyn to Kody, Meri was adamant that she didn't. She was there when they first met, but she didn't introduce them. She even mentioned the whole eye contact at church story that's apparently been spun around, which she didn't know anything about. She was at a dance with Kody when they met Robyn, so that's her truth. Personal growth. She talked about her growth in therapy and how she's become less defensive. She used to think that if someone was upset or frustrated around her, it was because of something she'd done. Now, she handles it differently. If someone's upset, She asks if it's about her, and if it's not, she doesn't take on their emotions. It was a really introspective moment. She also mentioned that she's not a regular therapy goer, but does engage with it at a level that feels right for her. How she's changed. When asked about how she's grown, Meri said she's become more positive overall and now chooses to see the best in situations instead of focusing on the worst. Compliments on her appearance. She was getting lots of compliments about how great she looked, and honestly, she did, which she laughed at and thanked people for. She also shared a little bit about her skincare routine and lamented the struggle of her eyebrows, saying they take way longer than the rest of her routine. And of course, Meri's take on the Robyn and Kody meeting. Unsurprisingly, it looks like the narrative around how Robyn and Kody met is not exactly truthful. Either they've rewritten history or they weren't exactly upfront about their first meeting. No surprise there. I mean, do we really think Meri was just a pawn in their story? I still remember season 1 when Kody casually referred to Meri as the bait for potential new wives. Well, Kody, looks like it wasn't Meri's charm that sealed the deal. It was your trademark smile and the TLC contract. Is Gwen really any different from Paedon when it comes to being a bully? I don't remember exactly where I saw it, but there was a video recently where Gwen was laughing and casually talking about a time she got into a fight with one of her brothers. Maybe Gabe, but I'm not sure. Anyway, she flat out admitted to shoving a toothbrush into his throat. And she thought it was hilarious, so now I'm left wondering, if she pulls stunts like that and doesn't get called a bully, what exactly is she accusing Paedon of? Was what he did really worse than that? I honestly think both Gwen and Paedon have a little bit of Kody in them. As for Christine's kids, yeah, I can't help but think they're a bit feral, except for Aspen and Sybil. Honestly, they're the only ones who seem somewhat normal, and that makes the show way more entertaining. Aspen's probably the way she is because, let's face it, she was basically the one doing the parenting. Sybil? Well, a lot of her attitude comes from years of pain dealing with scoliosis, which, surprisingly, seems to have made her less selfish. But if I'm being honest, I think all of Christine's kids have their fair share of behavior issues. It's not always obvious because of the editing, but they really do seem to enjoy getting under each other's skin and making fun of one another. They say it's just their sense of humor, but I'm not so sure. If it really is humor, then it's not funny. What did I just watch? I'm watching the series for the first time, and I just saw the fight between Kody and Gabe in Season 16, Episode 9. Gabe was literally pouring his heart out, desperately seeking love and affection. He kept talking about wanting to be a teammate to help get Janelle and Christine on his side. It was painfully obvious. He just wanted Kody's approval. And Kody? Completely blind to it. He treats it like some petty argument and starts yelling about Janelle to her own son. Dude, could you at least pretend to be the adult here? Just love your son. It's honestly heartbreaking to watch. This whole scene just highlights how cold Kody is toward his kids, especially when he's angry at their moms. And the fact that he'd even throw out an ultimatum like, it's either me or the kids. That's not even a choice, it's a manipulation tactic. No wonder his family's falling apart. Kody's got a lot of issues, and so does everyone else. But when you look back at Season 3, like that holiday episode when Gabe and Garrison got into a fistfight, and Kody does absolutely nothing. He's too busy tying a Christmas tree to the roof of the car while telling Janelle to handle the drama herself. Then there's Meri, packing her car alone while the teenage boys are over at Robyn's, helping her get ready for the holiday house. Kody rolls up and casually asks, "How much longer are you going to be?" She's doing it all herself. This family has been a mess for so long, there's no way they should have ever been on TV. Robyn's priorities have always been crystal clear. It's all about the money. I've been watching Sister Wives since day one, and now that I'm rewatching the series, I'm noticing things from a different perspective. I'm in Season 9, during the Alaska trip. This is the episode where Caleb asks Kody for permission to propose to Madison. Afterward, the adults go out for dinner, and this is also the dinner where Meri first brings up her catfishing situation. Kody mentions the conversation he had with Caleb and tells the wives how Caleb asked for his blessing. When asked how he responded, Kody says he told Caleb he couldn't have chosen a better husband for Madison. But Robyn, she's not having it. She reacts like Kody's response was just way too nice and totally missing the mark. She's all indignant, suggesting that Kody should have dug deeper into Caleb's background because, they only know a little bit about him. So Robyn, being Robyn, chimes in with what she thinks Kody should have said. You say, "Can I have your bank account, your pedigree?" I mean, that's what we always talked about doing. And there it is, Robyn's first concern, money. This whole moment is a huge clue about her priorities, and it's not subtle. Sure, everyone should know their potential spouse's financial status. That's just practical. But why does it seem like money is always Robyn's first thought? It says a lot, especially considering how she presents herself as the perfect wife, so obedient to the family's religious doctrine. So, why wasn't her first question about Caleb's faith, his values, or anything more personal? Nope, it's all about the bank account. Then, in the tell-all for this season, they discuss how the audience doesn't really trust Robyn because she's the newcomer. Janelle, ever the defender, tries to explain it away by saying something like, "We don't know why nobody likes Robyn." Right, Janelle, we all know why. And let's talk about Robyn's reaction to Meddie's proposal. She was so subtly dismissive, like she was trying to influence the family's opinion with little comments like that one. Contrast that with how supportive she was of Mykelti's engagement. Even though the family barely knew Tony, Robyn didn't hesitate to throw her full support behind them. Funny how that works. The whole thing just makes you wonder, what exactly is Robyn's role in this family dynamic, besides being the one who's always looking out for number one? Meri's PMO in the early seasons is just something else. It's a small pet peeve, but I feel like others might agree. Whenever she and Kody do an interview together, why does she stare at him like he's the answer to every question? It's as if she's hanging on to every single word he says. I mean, sure, she's still in love with him after all the terrible things he's put her through, but it just comes off as weird. Christine does it too sometimes, and I can't quite put my finger on why, but it really gets under my skin. Now, here's the thing. I grew up in an independent fundamental Baptist church, and let me tell you, they basically coach you to treat your husband like this. There are actual books on how to be the perfect wife, and one of the key lessons is to look at him like he's the center of the universe when he talks. If you've ever watched The Duggars, you'll see Michelle and the married girls doing this all the time. It's like they're robots programmed to hang on their husband's every word. Fast forward to when Kody melts down Meri's wedding ring, and suddenly, it's like she's putting on a show to get back into his good graces. Maybe it's all an act because she's hurting, but honestly, it feels like she's trying way too hard. Christine and Meri probably loved Kody the most, but guess who treated them the worst? Yeah, that would be him. Go figure. Kody's thoughts about Robyn going to church alone had definitely evolved over time. It wasn't just about the men eyeing her back when he first met her. It was now about every single guy everywhere. Old men, young men, married men, single men, heck, even David Woolley, whoever that was, every man in a 10-mile radius apparently wanted a piece of Robyn. Or, at the very least, they were jealous of Kody for having such a shy, pretty wife. Honestly, Kody was convinced he was basically the last line of defense keeping the feral men at bay. I mean, if anyone else were lucky enough to have a wife like Robyn, they'd be working overtime to protect her from the hordes of churchgoers just waiting for their shot. Yes, church. Because clearly, men just sat in pews, biding their time to make a move. Sure, Robyn wasn't exactly ugly, but good grief, who says that about their spouse on a regular basis. Like, is it really necessary to broadcast how much protection she needs? And will it be a new thing for her to leave the house? Does he really think men are just lurking at every corner, waiting to pounce? Kody's odd. That's all there is to it. Then there was his realization about Christine and Meri. He had always assumed that if they weren't with him, no one else would want them. But now Kody had to face the truth. He wasn't the alpha he believed himself to be. And as Robyn learned that life could, in fact, move on without him, she was clearly embracing the idea of soaking up whatever attention she could while the show lasted. What a mess. It looks like Kody's starting to have a bit of an existential crisis, doesn't it? Our guy, the ever-devout K-Bizzle, might just be realizing that all his beliefs aren't as unshakable as he thought. And maybe they were built on quicksand this whole time. It's like watching someone take a detour out of the indoctrination tunnel, and you're left wondering if he's finally seeing the light. This whole thing kind of reminds me of that Brady Bunch scene with Jan and Marcia at the modeling scout. You know, the one where the guy looks at Marcia and goes, "Yeah, we can work with this, but lose 30 pounds, cut that hair, and maybe a little plastic surgery, my little sausage." Then Marcia slaps him, horrified, and yells, "Cut my hair." Yeah, that's the vibe I get when I think about Kody and his religion. Seriously though, I've always had doubts about Kody's beliefs. He goes off on his mission trip at 18 or 19, spends a couple of years, 2, I'm guessing, then comes home and suddenly embraces a completely different sect of faith. Fast forward a few years, and at 21, he's married with the full knowledge that it's going to be a polygamous setup. Like, talk about a rapid conversion. That's a lot of belief shifting in a short amount of time. Then they move to Vegas, where the AUB churches are nowhere in sight. They barely even mention their religion, except when it's about polygamy. Remember Robyn's ridiculous purity speech. Other than that, the church barely gets a mention. It's almost like religion became secondary to their family drama. Now though, with Meri's release and his ongoing tantrum about feeling abandoned, suddenly religion is back in the conversation. And wouldn't you know it? The narrative has shifted. Kody's throwing in new details like how their church was apparently against them doing the show, which, I mean, seems pretty obvious, and, wait for it, his hair being an issue too. Honestly, I'd wager the hair thing stung more than the church drama. But here's the kicker. If there was an AUB church nearby, would Kody let A and B go there? Because it really feels like he's trying to distance himself from the whole thing. Oh, and he was pretty uncomfortable with Madison attending an FLDS church too, until she quit because they wouldn't baptize her. Bottom line, I'm not convinced Kody's religious beliefs have any depth. They're as shallow as a bird bath. And I'm starting to think he doesn't want anyone telling his family what to believe because, honestly, it threatens his control. Oh, don't even get me started on the way everyone on this show says else. How hard is it to pronounce? But no, they've all decided that else should somehow have a T in it. So instead of else, it's else. Seriously, it drives me bonkers. Like, I can't even. Thank you, and that's all. I mean, yeah, it's a little frustrating, pun intended, but I guess it's not the end of the world. Not like I'm about to start a crusade or anything. They say other things funny too, but hey, I probably shouldn't throw stones. I put an L at the end of saw. My mom tried to correct me since I could talk, but obviously I wasn't having it. I think it's all because they were all taught by the same system, then just kind of picked up their own weird syntax. And the regional accents don't help. But honestly, I think it's extra annoying because they're already so annoying. Meri's situation is honestly tough to watch. She has a complicated personality, sure, but I totally get why her marriage with Kody started falling apart. It's like she was constantly questioning her place in the family, especially since she only had one child. Then she tries to bring Robyn into the mix to help, but it blows up in her face. I can't blame Kody completely after the whole catfishing debacle. If that had been a real guy, Meri would have been out of there in a heartbeat. So yeah, I get why Kody pulled away, but watching Meri hang around, desperate to hold on to him, was downright cringy. My heart really went out to her though. She seems like a better person than she ever got to be in that toxic Brown family dynamic. As for Robyn, it's clear she was all in for plural marriage, but with one big caveat. She wanted to be the last wife and the favorite one. It's like she was trying to secure the family for her kids while also making sure her position was solid. I can sympathize with her a bit because, honestly, it feels like she was made into the scapegoat a lot of the time. But the breakdowns of the other marriages weren't all because of her. Kody had a big hand in it too. What really gets under my skin about Robyn, though, is how she manipulated Meri into staying. Instead of encouraging Meri to leave when Kody checked out, she kept her around for her own benefit. That's not being a good sister wife, that's straight up manipulation. She would have done the same to Janelle or Christine if she could, but Meri was an easy target, especially after she got catfished. It's also important to point out that Meri didn't bring Robyn into the family, Kody did. This is a patriarchal setup where the women have little say in the matter. The whole Meri brought Robyn in narrative is just a PR spin for the cult. And let's not forget, Kody had already started pulling away from Meri long before the catfishing scandal. By the time she got caught up in that mess, she was already vulnerable. So of course, she became an easy target for a professional manipulator. Now, about Meri's difficult personality, I think that's a bit of a stretch. The real issue is that her husband was constantly on the lookout for other wives. From day one, Kody was seeking out another woman. Then he starts hooking up with her ex-sister-in-law, all while they're living in a trailer and struggling with money. After that, Kody brings in Robyn, and suddenly Janelle and Christine are competing to have more kids to earn Kody's approval. Meri couldn't keep up with that, and no one should expect her to. Honestly, I think the whole Brown family is a mess because they were too young when they all got married. Meri was just 19 when she married Kody, and by the time Janelle came into the picture, Meri was only around 22. Their brains weren't even fully developed, and they were all living in a trailer, sharing the husband. No wonder insecurities were running wild. Polygamy isn't some romantic setup. It's a system designed to make people endure pain and struggle, not thrive. Kody Brown, ever the expert in making everything about himself, is officiating Brian's wedding. Not because he's particularly qualified or reliable, but because people somehow mistake his inflated ego for competence. Maybe it's the confidence, or the hope that flattery might finally get them somewhere. Either way, they're in for a wild ride. Kody has somehow convinced them that his self-assuredness can mask his total lack of preparation. And so there he is, driving to the wedding, waiting until the very last minute to scramble together some vaguely coherent words to say during the ceremony. It's a mess. The result is a cringe-worthy monologue, dripping with awkwardness, that nobody needed to hear. But wait, it gets worse. The real showstopper, Kody's dancing. Imagine a man who thinks he's in a 90s sitcom, fueled by testosterone supplements and zero self-awareness, attempting moves that can only be described as Elaine Bainey's meets chaos. The crowd is horrified, but what else is new? They thought they were getting a charismatic officiant, but instead, they got a living, breathing ego trip wrapped in a suit, and a cringeworthy wedding reception performance to boot. Here's the real tragedy, though. Kody, in his quest for attention and fleeting validation, still doesn't get it. He missed Isabel's surgery. His own daughter, someone who would have loved him unconditionally for the rest of her life, needed him. But he chose a moment of fleeting fame at someone else's wedding instead. In a few weeks, no one at that wedding will even remember the fool who stood at the altar and blurted out a bunch of nonsense. Meanwhile, Isabel, who deserves better, would have made him feel loved in a way that no applause at a wedding could ever match. It's heartbreaking, really. But then again, Kody's too busy being the center of attention to notice the love that was right in front of him. Honestly, I've always thought Janelle and Meri were more compatible than Janelle and Christine, even if that sounds totally bizarre given their constant struggles to get along. But hear me out. Janelle always trusted Meri to prioritize the family's interests. She even freaked out a little when Robyn became the legal wife instead of Meri. And Meri, for all her faults, trusted Janelle with the finances. They were the only ones who truly committed to polygamy. Christine gave it a shot, but let's face it, she never really made it work. And Robyn? Well, let's not even get started on her level of commitment. Now that all the toxic rivalry over marriages is behind them, and Meri's gracefully moved on from her divorce, I can't help but think they might actually be able to be a meaningful part of each other's lives. Who would have thought? Christine? Oh, she had a clear vision from the start. She wanted to be the third wife. She got the assignment, and I'll give her credit. She did it. But let's not pretend it was all sunshine and rainbows. Polygamy is hard on women, period. But the real drama didn't kick in for her until Robyn showed up, swooping in like a heat-seeking missile. Each relationship in the OG3 is a story of its own, messy, unique, and with its own value. I'm honestly kind of glad to hear Meri and Janelle are talking again. If I'm being selfish, I'd love to see the OG3 actually become closer now that they don't have to share a husband or fight over who gets the last slice of pizza. Janelle always respected and, dare I say, even loved Meri, even when she couldn't stand her. They're both pragmatic women who made a commitment they intended to keep for life. If Christine hadn't bailed, I'm pretty sure they'd still be there. Janelle calls Meri loyal to a fault, but honestly, Janelle isn't that different. These two have been through so much together, compartmentalizing their personal feelings for the greater good of the group. I mean, there's gotta be some shared trauma there, right? Now Christine, bless her heart, does a lot of the same things, but she's not as good at putting her emotions aside. She's led by her heart, takes everything personally, and is all about making sure the group vibes well and that everyone's having a good time. No surprise, she's struggled with the whole polygamy thing. I can totally see how these three women managed to hold it together, not flawlessly, but still for so long. I just wish we could have seen how their family dynamics played out before Robyn showed up. Honestly, I'm hoping the OG3 do a few group therapy sessions to hash out the past, so they can all manage to do holidays and big family events together in the future for the sake of the family. Wouldn't that be something? Let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in the next video. Take care and much love to you all.